10 years of strategy, from fallen prince to the emperor, I built his throne. But before the wedding candles could even flicker, he promised my crown to another. If my heart was just a stepping stone, I'm done with this game. Adrian, you've forgotten, there is only one true player here, and it's not you. I sneered, tapping the glowing void. Infinite reload activate. This time I'll watch you crawl. Chapter 1. Lately, Tongjing City had been draped in endless rain. The red begonias in Everjoy Palace only flared for a few days before they were battered to the ground. Fallen scarlet everywhere. A desolate, lonely sight. Just like my bleak mood. I'd spent more than 10 years inside the strategy game. Without the Empress's seat, I couldn't go home, not even for a day. And aside from loading saves, the game had no other function. Even my target's favor was something I could only feel out by guesswork. His name is Adrian Meng. Once, he was the most ordinary, least favored among the Emperor's many sons. A libertine by reputation, with countless concubines in his manor. The famed Springview Pavilion in Tongjing was like his private backyard. When I married him, everyone said the great general's daughter must have had 8 generations of bad luck to be tied to such a depraved wastrel. But the debauchery was only a mask, a young man hiding his ambition, showing nothing until his wings had fully grown. He swallowed ice for 10 years, then seized the throne, becoming lord of the realm, honored by all. I thought that for the years we'd kept each other company, from fallen prince to crown prince and now to emperor, for old time's sake, he would give me the empress's seat. Who would have thought that the very night he held me and swore he'd pluck the moon from the sky just to amuse me, the next day he gave the empress's seat to someone else. When I heard it, my only thought was, this brat has broken his word, yet again, and again, and again. Other things I could let slide with one eye open and the other closed, but the empress's seat is weightier than Mount Tai. There can't be the slightest carelessness. So I took a length of white silk, looped it over the beam, and had someone summon Adrian Meng. He arrived with a fine sheen of sweat on his brow. His lips pressed into a line, jaw tight, his face gone cold and hard. I was standing on a chair. Seeing he still cared, I deliberately slid the white silk a little closer around my neck. Adrian's long, narrow brows drew together. A chill gathered in his dark eyes. He kept his face stern as he came forward and asked, voice like ice, "Gracie, what temper are you throwing now? How did I teach you? Life and death aren't jokes. If I hadn't come today, what would you have done? Using your life to threaten someone is the stupidest move of all." With each sentence, his tone grew colder, until only killing chill remained. I refused to yield. Why make Lila Liang empress? The other night you didn't say that. You clearly said you'd pluck the moon for me, and that you and Lila Liang share no man-woman affection. If so, then why? Before I could finish, Adrian cut me off, hard. He didn't want to tangle with me, nor did he answer. He only said, voice low, "Gracie, come down. Don't make me do it myself." He had clearly promised me the empress's seat that night. Now it seemed he meant to renege. Watching my chance to go home slip away, fury flared. Was your 10-year affection only for the military power in my father's hands? Adrian froze. He lifted his gaze, ink-dark eyes fixed on me without blinking. Sharp as a blade, straight into my heart, as if he could see straight through to the secrets I hid. My heart fluttered with guilt. I lowered my eyes, not daring to meet his. Adrian stepped forward and kicked hard at the chair leg. The seat tilted. I lost balance and fell. He reached out, caught me around the waist, and steadied me. "Weren't you also after the empress's seat?" His thin lips moved, a trace of mockery at the corner. He went on, "If so, what right do you have to reproach me?" He bent close to my ear and murmured, "Aside from the empress's seat, anything else you want, I can give you." I didn't understand. I frowned. "Why?" He smiled, eyes curved, but without a hint of warmth. A broad palm cupped the back of my head. "You'll have to ask yourself that." I jolted, as if struck in the chest. For a moment I was dazed and lost my words. This last-ditch ploy was only to test my weight in his heart. I wasn't naive enough to think I could truly win the throne this way. Adrian had always spoiled me. I didn't know why, but this time he was uncommonly firm about the empress's seat. He was always decisive. What he set his mind to, he would achieve despite all obstacles. That being so, if I wanted the throne later, I'd have to pull Lila Liang down first. Who knew how much more that would take? I leaned back to put some space between us, and with my hand, quietly sketched open an interface in the void. I'd already spent too much time. I had a premonition that if I kept tangling with Adrian, I'd be trapped in this game forever. A tap of my finger, a wash of light, fireflies gathering and dissolving. Adrian's face blurred. When my sight cleared, it was the Lantern Festival several months earlier. Tongjing was festooned with lanterns, drums, and music, clamorous, lively beyond compare, a prosperous blaze. I had to admit, Adrian was a good emperor. That night, I begged him to leave the palace with me. He wore white and carried a river lantern standing beneath dappled shade and held out a jade-like hand to me. Cold moonlight fell on his fingertips, gleaming softly. A gentleman on the road, features like carved jade, eyes bright as stars, truly unmatched in beauty. Laughter shimmered at his eyes and brows, and in his pupils a tiny me was clearly reflected. Under that focused, tender gaze, I acted on a whim and saved my progress. Seeing me dazed, he stepped from the dappled shade into the bright moonlight, every step landing right on my heart. He stopped before me, lifted a hand, and pinched my earlobe. "Gracie, what are you thinking? So happy you're stunned? If you wish it, I'll spend every lantern festival with you, releasing lanterns and offering prayers." I lowered my gaze, quietly took the lantern from him, lit it, set it gently on the water, pressed my hands together, and made a wish: become empress soon, and leave soon. If that's too hard, then at least don't let Lil Liang be made empress. When I opened my eyes, the lantern had already floated downstream. By then, the ever-clear river was studded with countless lights, merging into bright ribbons drifting along the dark surface. Like a reversed galaxy, stars pouring into the river's depths. Adrian stood beside me, his hand dropping to rest lightly on my shoulder. I squeezed his well-defined fingers and smiled. "Afraid I'll tumble into the river?" Gracie is always clumsy." "I am not. I'm no child." I pouted. "Adrian, you worry too much. What did you wish for?" As he spoke, the lantern rounded a bend and snagged on an overgrown branch by the bank. I scratched my head and gave a dry laugh. "Seems the immortals are busy today and have no time for my wish." The light in his eyes dimmed, a shadow fell across his brows. He squeezed my shoulder and soothed. "It's all right. Adrian, the one with a problem, seems to be you right now." He bent, pinched a pebble between his fingers and snapped his wrist. With a sharp strike, the wild branch cracked. The broken twig spun and was carried away by the current. Freed, the lantern bobbed onward, drifted a few meters, and sank. Perhaps his heavy throw damaged it. I clicked my tongue. "As expected, it's best to let things be. Forcing breaks them." He echoed softly. "Forcing?" I nodded and looked up, only to find his gaze empty and far away. Then he lowered his eyes. Our gazes collided midair. As if startled awake, he grasped my wrist and yanked me into his arms. All I could hear was the steady thud of his heart. His hand cupped the back of my head. He lowered his face and buried it at my neck. His breath was hot on my skin. It tickled. I tried to shrink away, but Adrian's hold was too strong. I couldn't move at all. I pushed him, but he didn't budge. He rasped, "Gracie, do you truly want the Empress's seat that much? Do you really want to?" The rest trailed off, too soft to catch, scattered by the wind. "What?" I asked. He didn't answer, only held me tighter, until I could barely breathe. He asked if I truly wanted the Empress's seat. Before, I would have said yes without hesitation. But now, after so many years together, though my original intent was impure, I had grown some feeling. When I heard he'd made Lila Liang Empress, what consumed me most was a bone-deep jealousy. Only the Empress is his wife. I don't know when such foolish thoughts took root in me. I poked his back. "Adi, it's getting late. We should go back. Let me hold you a little longer." By the time we returned, the moon was high. Adrian carried me on his back, step by steady step. I nudged him. "If I stop coveting the Empress's seat, don't give it to anyone else, all right?" His steps faltered sharply. After a dazed moment, he moved again. I rested my head on his shoulder, comfortable as could be. Time flowed quietly, and I began to doze. My vision blurred, and his whispers at my ear drifted farther away. With a long sigh, he spoke softly, pain hidden under gentleness. "Gracie, were you sincere this time, or only acting again? I already gave you my heart." Before I could think, sleep took me. The next day when I woke, I couldn't tell if that sigh had been real or only my imagination. In my memory, Adrian always swallowed blood with his teeth. cold and proud, never willing to expose any weakness. But that night, his voice had been so helpless, pleading without end. It was nothing like him. Lately, I'd felt constantly tired, listless all day. The imperial physician said it was nothing serious and prescribed a few calming decoctions. The sun shone bright that day, the sky a flawless blue. Spring had come, the winter chill was easing. The light outside lifted the spirit. I asked Annie to stroll with me in the imperial garden. Soaking in the spring warmth, I felt cozy through and through. Pleased, I skipped a few steps. Annie hurried to warn, "My lady, please be careful." I smiled, then looked up to see someone walking toward me with grace. Distant mountain brows, willow leaf eyes, a delicate, lovely face. Her peach-colored dress fluttered in the breeze, and she twirled a flower between her fingers, her face brimming with playful smiles. It was Lila Long, Adrian's cousin, and my only enemy in the harem. At the sight of me, her smile vanished. She bit her lip and stopped a few steps away, giving me a perfunctory salute. She retreated a step to open some distance, tilted her chin slightly, and put on a proud air. I advise elder sister to stay away from me. She snorted and turned away without a backward glance. Lila and I had been at odds for a long time, always ready to fight when we met. But today she seemed to avoid me, however subtly. Thinking how careful she'd been, deliberately keeping her distance. The little girl who usually bounced around now walking so steadily. And remembering how, before I reloaded, Adrian had suddenly named Lila Empress without warning. An idea slowly rose in my heart. Could it be she's pregnant? Something snapped in my mind. I went blank, unable to recover for a long while. He truly had a bloodline with another woman? Soreness and anger surged, jealousy boiling up from beneath the ice. My throat felt gripped by an invisible hand. My vision blurred, then cleared. Annie's startled cry sounded at my side. "My lady, don't be upset!" She fumbled, opening her mouth several times without managing a word. Reflected in her eyes was a panicked, sorrowful face. I lifted my hand. My cheeks were already wet. Crying, really? I could no longer deny it. I liked Adrian more than a little. When I returned to the palace, I happened to run into Adrian coming to find me. I quickly lowered my head, afraid he'd notice my reddened eyes. I bowed in silence. He was faster, lifting me up and pinching my nose. "Haven't I said you needn't fuss with empty courtesies?" I mumbled. "Oh." He pinched my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Have you been crying? Why?" I didn't want to talk to him, least of all answer that. But Adrian was relentless. "Tell me, why are you crying?" I gave a wan smile. "You're hiding something from me, aren't you?" "No." It was subtle, but when he answered, his eyes flicked down. It was his tell whenever he lied. That only cemented my suspicion. Seeing him still trying to hide behind a lie, I grew even gloomier. Why have feelings at all? Better to swindle him and go home as planned. At dinner, Adrian kept serving me dishes. If I so much as frowned, he'd paste on a smile to coax me. Was he feeling guilty? Though he'd said I was his only one in this life, I wasn't that stupid. And whatever had already happened couldn't be undone. So when he put food in my bowl again, I said lightly, "I know everything, the thing you've been hiding." His chopsticks froze. He stared at me without blinking. After a long moment, he asked, "Then you?" "I'm big-hearted. I'm not angry. Once this game is over, I'll forget him clean." He suddenly grabbed my hand, voice a little agitated, his lips trembling. "Gracie, do you really mean it?" "What? Did I say something that grand? Why so excited?" I smiled and said gently, "Of course I do, because it's your child. I love you, so naturally I love the child too." Chapter 2. Adrian's eyes reddened as if tears were about to fall. He pulled me into his arms, and warm drops splashed onto the side of my neck. I stiffened. I could hardly believe it. Was he actually crying? He choked. "That day when you said you'd stop coveting the Empress's seat, I thought you were humoring me." "I didn't expect you meant it." He cupped my face and kissed me again and again. "Adrian, what exactly did I mean? And also, you haven't wiped your mouth since dinner." I lifted a hand and pushed his head away, grumbling, "You got oil all over my face." Adrian didn't mind. He lowered his head and brought his face close. "Then will Gracie kiss it better?" "Kiss it better?" "Dream on. You don't get to trick me and take advantage." I grinned slyly, grabbed his sleeve, and wiped. He slipped an arm around my waist. With his other hand, he curled a finger and tapped my head. About to be a mother, and still so childish? Mother? Was he talking about me? His warm, broad palm covered my lower belly, caressing with tender care. I remember when I first met you, you were just a little girl. In a blink, you're to be a mother. And the mother of my child. Like a thunderclap. My mind went blank. That hit even harder than thinking Lila was pregnant. I recognized every word he said, but strung together, I couldn't grasp the meaning. Adrian kept talking, but I couldn't hear a thing. 100 thoughts flashed by, and I caught none. I lifted a hand to my belly. Was there really a life here? I could reload again and go back to before anything happened. But I found I couldn't. For the first time, I felt a bond to this other world. Funny, really. I'd just mistaken Lila for being pregnant and brooded over it for so long, never thinking it was me. All those bitter gulps of contraceptive decoction, in the end, for nothing. But if so, why did Adrian suddenly make Lila empress last time? And her behavior today was odd. I couldn't help asking, you and Lila. The icy glints that had flickered in Adrian's eyes when he looked at me had melted away, pooling into deep affection. We'd been together so long, this was the first time he'd dropped all disguises and looked at me, open and intent. I told you long ago, Lila is only a younger sister. He pinched my cheek, exasperated and fond. If there were really something between us, would there be any place for you? But you named her empress last time. I didn't want to let it slide. I said deliberately, she married you before I did. And you two were childhood sweethearts. Vaguely, I felt I was overlooking something. His smile deepened. He rested his chin atop my head. Is Gracie jealous? Maybe just a little. He rubbed my hair and continued, over the years, Lila has helped me a great deal, openly and in secret. Now she's found someone she likes. When the time is right, I'll arrange for her to leave. Huh? I couldn't process it. If not for the real weight of his hand kneading my head, I'd have thought I was dreaming. Then why did he make Lila empress that time? Adrian grew even more attentive to me lately. He even moved his memorials to my room to review them. Out of the day's 12 hours, he wanted 13 with me. Annie was overjoyed, saying I finally cared about the emperor, and that with the little prince in my belly, I was one step closer to the empress's seat. Truly, something to celebrate. I protested. I've always cared about him. Annie smiled. Yes, my lady is always right. What? That only makes me sound unreasonable. I was about to explain exactly how much I cared when a eunuch announced Adrian's arrival. Since he'd told me not to bother with formalities, I didn't get up to greet him. I lay lazily on the couch, waiting for him to come to me. He approached with a bright smile, something in his hand. He sat by me and pushed it into my palm, eyes shining with expectation. A cloth tiger, though rather clumsy, crooked stitches and all. Who'd dare present such shoddy handiwork to him? His face practically begged for praise. The words might as well have been written there. I had a guess, but I wrinkled my nose on purpose. This little tiger is ugly. I don't want it. Take it back. The light in his eyes dimmed. He lowered his lashes, looking almost aggrieved. It's my first time. I didn't do well. By the time he finished, the tips of his ears were flushed red. I laughed and snatched the little tiger back. I lied. It's the best I've ever seen. I kept a straight face, but inside I was full. With him like this, how could I still go back? Was I really going to spend a lifetime in this other world? My heart felt lost, like walking a foggy mountain road, afraid to step wrong and tumble into an abyss. Mist gathered in my eyes. I quickly ducked my head to fiddle with the tiger, afraid he'd notice. When I first arrived, I was all grand ambition. I treated this like an ordinary strategy game. Finish early, collect the reward early. I didn't expect that under Adrian's gentle siege, I'd still lose my heart. He rested his head lightly on my belly, his voice gentle as a spring breeze. The first try was clumsy. Next time will be better. I'll be a good father. I stroked his soft hair from behind his ear to his brows and eyes. After a struggle, I spoke. If I said, I don't really want it, what would you do? The words hurt me even as I said them. The smile vanished from his face. He forced another, voice low and hoarse like scraped by broken glass. If I'm not good enough, it's only right you don't want it. He swayed to his feet, said he had matters to attend to, and would come at night, then turned and left in a hurry. I knew he understood what I meant, only pretended not to. He watched over the child in my belly so closely, I should have used it to threaten him. threatened that, if he wouldn't give me the empress's seat, I wouldn't keep the child. But how could I say that? The mere thought suffocated me. Watching him go, I felt wretched and thought to reload to return to before I said those words. I shouldn't have used the child to stab him, but as soon as I pulled up the interface, a hand seized my wrist. Adrian's furious voice crashed down. What are you trying to do again? Turn time back once more? Do you really think you can secretly murder my child without heaven or earth knowing? Turn back time? That's one way to put it, but how did Adrian know? I was terrified. My voice shook. How do you know? I can, he sneered, since the time you saved me. Perhaps it was facing death. Every time you reversed time after that, I remember everything that happened while it flowed. I saved him 3 years ago. He was ambushed, and with clumsy me in tow, took a blade to shield me. The blade was poisoned. Death on contact. I couldn't watch him die. I reloaded without hesitation. As he put it, rather than remembering, it was like he reloaded with me each time. I thought reloading gave me all the advantage, but he'd been watching everything. I pressed my lips together and forced the question. Then when you made Li Liang empress, it was to make you give up. If you got the empress's seat, you could leave me, right? He paused. You tricked me out of my heart, then tossed it aside. After all the wrongs you've done, did you really think you could walk away clean? No, I wanted to explain, but I had no defense. Our story was built on deception. Strip away the finery, and all that remained was wreckage. Were you lying that day too? Lying that you were willing to bear my child? Adrian's eyes were bloodshot. He trembled all over, like he'd topple with a breath of wind. He lifted a lock of my hair, twined it around his fingers, and kissed it again and again. His phoenix eyes narrowed, all starlight shattered, leaving only heavy black, like a bottomless cold pool. You fooled me so hard. I won't pity you again. His baleful gaze raised goose flesh all over me. What are you going to do? He bared his teeth in a grin. I'll lock you up. By lock you up, he meant confining me in Everjoy Palace. I'd thought he'd chain me with iron. In the end, he still couldn't be ruthless. He treated me better than before, but his kindness was laced with hate and grievance. It's not that I was unwilling to stay by his side, but was it too late to say so now? I'd stumbled into that game shop by accident. The owner said if I won, I could get whatever I wanted. Even a grade schooler wouldn't believe that. But I was desperate, dead horse as living horse. I decided to try. Who knew that, cursed as I was, I'd meet a real immortal? My mother died early. My only family was a father who gambled. He ran off, leaving me with his mess and his debts. Because of the loan sharks, everyone avoided me. I was always alone, with no friends. Thinking of it that way, reality wasn't so worth clinging to. Better to drown in this beautiful illusion. Under wavering candlelight, Adrian sat with his back to me on the edge of the bed, reviewing memorials. I stared at the bed curtains and asked idly, "Aren't you curious what I am?" He didn't pause. His voice was steady. "What else could you be? A demon, of course." "What? A demon? Why not say I'm a goddess from the heavens?" I nodded along. "Yes, a demon. My true form is a little green-haired turtle." He stiffened and shot me a doubtful look. I staked all my acting skills. "Adrian, if I accidentally lay a few eggs, will it scare you?" "Some things can't be told. They must be shown." My mind was set. The past was a lie. I'd spend the rest of my life proving the truth. He stopped writing and turned to look at me. "Are you truly a turtle spirit?" I nodded like pounding garlic. Yes. He seemed depressed and sighed. "If you are, then you are." He's always composed, lips curved in a natural half-smile as if he could laugh off anything. Seeing him tangled for once, I couldn't resist teasing. "Adrian, have you read too many storybooks? Think all seductive demons are fox spirits? No rule says turtles can't cultivate, you know? If you really can't accept it, I can take our little turtle sons and leave." At the word leave, he bristled, eyes almost spitting fire. He gripped my chin and hissed at my ear. "Even a turtle, I'll accept. As for leaving, best give up that idea." After a beat of silence, he spoke coldly. "When you raised your hand to cast a spell that time, were you planning to sever our bond?" I thought about it. He must have meant when I tried to roll time back to before I conceived. So that was it. He couldn't see my inner face and mistook my reloads for magic. I shook my head. He didn't believe me. Still trying to fool me. I tugged his sleeve. When did you learn that once I became empress, I could leave? He snorted, saying I had only myself to blame for being foolish. Knowing all this, I wanted to twist my own head off. It was the night before his enthronement. He'd planned to promise me the seat, but I got cocky, thought success was at hand, drank too much peach wine, and blabbed. Is there anything dumber than unmasking yourself to your target? I was drunk enough to tell Adrian that once I became empress, I could go home. He kept working as he spoke, voice cool. You were always careless, neither near nor far. Of course I had to test you. He gave a self-mocking smile. The result was truly disappointing. If I couldn't get what I wanted, you wouldn't either. Time flowed like water. My belly became a round ball. As the due date neared, Adrian grew more and more on edge. Everyone in Everjoy Palace walked on eggshells because of his dark mood. I bit a peach blossom pastry and looked down at the man carefully massaging my legs. I nudged his hand with my foot. He frowned and warned, Gracie, behave. If you hurt my child, that little green turtle life of yours won't be spared. I ignored him and nudged again. Seeing him about to snap, I softened my voice. Adrian, are you nervous? He refused to trust me, convinced I didn't want to keep the child and still dreamed of leaving him. He'd been stewing for 9 full months. With my due date close, he was anxious and sleepless, his dark circles worse than a panda's. Adrian, I'm a demon, not so easy to die. What are you so worried about? I worry for the child. What are you to me? All right. You care about the child. Seeing his brow furrow deepen, I asked, Adrian, do you know how many eggs a turtle can lay at once? To have a bunch of children all at once, doesn't that make you a little happy? He finally reacted, brows knit as he asked seriously, do you know how many eggs are in your belly? I loosened my grip and the pastry rolled to the floor. I laughed so hard I couldn't breathe. He panicked and patted my back to calm me. What are you laughing at? Is this the time for jokes? I caught my breath, took his hand, and said solemnly, Adrian, I've got 20 eggs. His mouth twitched, his handsome face scrunched, hard to tell joy from worry. He asked, truly? Truly. The night before I gave birth, Adrian granted me the empress's seat. I was stunned. After begging for so long, to finally get it, I didn't know what to do. I'd thought he'd never grant it to me in this life. By wavering candlelight, heavy shadows lay across his brows and eyes. I couldn't read his expression. His silhouette felt lonely. His tone was flat. The edict to make you empress has been issued. If you wish it, after the heir is born and the enthronement ceremony is done, stay quietly by my side. I stared. What if I don't? If you don't, then after the heir is born, go. But the child stays with me, for the sake of my realm. I opened the edict and read it over and over, ignoring his 100 reasons why the child must remain. Didn't you refuse before? Why agree now? His weak smile was thin as dew. Sunlight would evaporate it in a breath. He lifted his hand to smooth my messy hair. I don't want to cage you forever. If I keep you by force, will you hate me? I was silent a moment, plotting something else. What if you trick me? His back stiffened. He snapped. Grace Lee? Chapter 3. Rarely, Adrian called me by my full name. His chest heaved. His voice boomed. We've been married 10 years, and you can't give me a shred of trust? There was a hint of tears in it. My heart twinged, but I flashed him a brilliant smile. Then I would like to thank you for fulfilling my wish. I carefully folded the edict and cradled it in my palms, kissing it again and again. At that, he stormed out. I chuckled, lay back, and pulled the quilt over me. Thinking of him fleeing in a panic, I decided he really was all bark. Soon enough, he charged back in. Seeing me wide-eyed, he pressed his lips into a hard line. I only worry about the 20 eggs in your belly. The moment you leave, I'll select concubines. Rest assured, I'll choose a dignified, virtuous mother for your child. I arched a brow, teasing. One mother won't be enough. I've got 20 eggs. Some might even be double-yolked. Even across the room, I heard his teeth grind. He wanted to use the child as leverage to make me stay. He hadn't expected my indifference. I could easily imagine him swapping my contraceptive decoction behind my back, Annie in on it too. Cornered and out of options, he'd stoop to this to force my hand. During labor, he insisted on staying with me. I was the one suffering, yet he was paler than me, his hand trembling in mine. I couldn't bear to see him like that, and found an excuse to send him out. No sooner had I survived and delivered the little prince than chaos broke out outside. A young eunuch shrieked. The emperor has fainted. As I drifted off, my last thought was, Adrian really is a duck with a hard beak. When I woke, he was clutching my hand, face buried in my palm. His lashes brushed my skin like tiny brushes, tickling. I moved instinctively. He sensed it and looked up. His eyes were rimmed red, a shimmer of water in the dark irises. Moved, I stroked his chin. Adrian, your stubble is prickly. For the sake of his pride, I didn't say, Adrian, you cried so sadly. He froze for 2 seconds, then swatted my hand away. Want to see the child? I nodded obediently. He flicked my forehead, enunciating, no way, at all. I pouted and gazed at him with watery eyes. His lips flattened into a stiff line before he gave in. He called for the wet nurse to bring the baby. A little pink bundle, eyes big and bright, clear and pure. He saw Adrian and cooed twice, blowing a little bubble. A tiny hand gripped Adrian's forefinger, then he fell asleep again. Adrian, your son is like a piglet, just sleeps. Adrian shot me a glare, then turned back to the baby, smoothing away all coolness. He softened his voice. His eyes look like yours. I couldn't help but smile and nudged him. Not 20 eggs? Are you a tiny bit disappointed? I cleared my throat. Actually, I'm not a green-haired turtle. He was busy teasing his son, not even lifting his eyes. I know. You know, my smile collapsed. Then why did you still? I saw how happy you were pretending to be a turtle, so I played along. You probably don't know, whenever you tease me, you smile like a little fox. But what you think and do is more like a big dumb goose. I swallowed. If I weren't still weak, I'd jump up and thump him to show him the real goose. During my confinement, we tacitly avoided the topic of me leaving. His words were sharp, but he took excellent care of me. The only flaw was that whenever he saw me holding the baby, he'd say deliberately, the son is mine, meaning if you leave, you get nothing. Like now, he looked at me with disdain, his tone colder than winter. My son is precious. With your careless ways, better not hold him too much. What if you drop him? I'm his mother. Why can't I hold him? If you leave, you won't be. Lunatic. I ignored him and focused on the baby. Catching him staring, I snapped. What are you looking at? I'm not yours to look at. How am I not? You soon won't be my husband. Adrian, after a pause, he said carelessly, I've already ordered preparations for the enthronement ceremony. What? Did I agree? I turned my head. No, I'm leaving. You promised. As you wish. Not even going to try to stop me? The day I feigned leaving was bright and clear. As always, once he finished with state affairs, Adrian came to Everjoy Palace. Hearing I meant to go, he lifted his eyes and gazed at me in silence. He was very calm, face flat. If not for his trembling hand at his side, I'd have believed he no longer cared. I raised my hand and opened the interface. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw his hand clench into a fist. A new page appeared. Congratulations, you have completed the game. Confirm leave? Adrian, I'm go. Before I finished, his calm shattered. He rushed forward, grabbing me in a crushing hold. Gracie, don't go. Please? His tall frame trembled. His arms locked me in with all his strength. He buried his face at my neck. Something warm fell on my shoulder and slid down. Warm. I poked his back with a finger. Then begged me. Please. All right, I'll agree, reluctantly. He held me tight and spoke in broken phrases. Gracie, I'll believe. I cut in. If I wanted to go, why all this fuss? I know you still harbor doubts, but please trust me once more, all right? He gave a muffled assent. I wrapped my arms around his waist. Aren't you going to ask how this all began and why? He shook his head. I understood. What was done was done. He cared more about the ending than the cause. I'll tell you everything slowly from now on, all right? All right?